Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a real pleasure to see so many of you here, and I know there are many more who are watching us online. I'm Tamsin Rose, and I have the great pleasure to be the moderator for this closing plenary. So the first thing we need to do, and welcome those who are joining us online who didn't get a chance to participate in 8 very intense, very rich workshops. But now I'm going to ask 8 people to do the impossible task, which is to share some of the highlights of their conversations with us in just 3 minutes. So to do that, what I'm going to do is, first of all, I just want to remind you that we have social media that we're going to encourage you to use. We're going to be showing you the hashtags. And there's a reason I'm going to ask you to use that, is because afterwards we're going to be asking you to take photos and send your messages. So please note our hashtag on Twitter, Facebook, and our Instagram. We're also going to be using Slido a little bit later, so don't forget, keep your phones and your devices ready, because we will be using Slido to ask you a question a little bit later. So I'll show you the QR code again, but that's a reminder of what we're going to do. So let's get started. I'm going to invite up on stage to join me the rapporteurs of the first 4 workshops, and they were the workshops that began this morning. So the brave souls who are going to sum up their conversations in just 3 minutes, let me invite to come and join me on stage Mr. Martin Kovac, the State Secretary at the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development of the Slovak Republic. Welcome. And you're... Let me invite Guy Richard Richard, the Senior Scientist at the French National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and Environment. Welcome. Next up is Frédéric Leroy, Professor at the Free University of Brussels in the field of food science and biotechnology. Welcome. And finally, it's Robert Mavsar, the Deputy and currently Interim Director for the European Forest Institute. Welcome. I'm the one with the magic microphone. So here we're going to pass the microphone gradually along the team, and I'm going to ask each of you essentially 2 questions. The first question I'm going to ask you is, what was your parallel session about and what did you discuss? And then the second question is your 3 takeaway messages that our audience can use from your session. So I'm going to start with Martin. You were from the parallel session number 1 on sustainably managed natural resources for agricultural production and the EU mission A Soil Deal for Europe. So tell us in just 3 minutes what you discussed and your top takeaways.
Thank you very much. It was really a fantastic discussion, and I am thankful to all participants. We were discussing 2 natural resources, and it is water and soil. They are really key for the production, for biodiversity, but we spoke about these 2 topics in context of land and plants, because they are really part of the small water cycles and water cycle systems. So this is very important to have sustainable water cycles. At the same time, we discussed how to move from sectoral to more integrated nexus approach. So it is really about deeper thinking. What is the relation of soil, water, energy flow, food production, and ecosystems? And this nexus approach brings a number of benefits, including SDGs, so we can really fulfill a number of SDGs. And what was very important was to discuss that we need closed and sustainable water, carbon, nutrition, and energy cycles as well. So this is important because these things after then work, and they can really be part of our circular bioeconomy. And I have 3 ideas what we can take home. The first is that we really need monitoring. We really need good monitoring, good indicators, and good use of the data and assessment of this data, so we can use this data later for integrated water, soil, and crops planning. Secondly, we need adaptation action, climate action on soil, because by doing adaptation measures and good management practice, we can really improve the situation. We can improve water retention capacity, and with number of synergies. Regenerative farming practices were really highlighted and are important for us. And the third idea is motivation. We need to have a motivation, provide support for key stakeholders, and those stakeholders are really land users, farmers, foresters, because they need support in doing this positive action when they really promote practices that update and recover ecosystem services of soil and landscape. So many of these things I mentioned perfectly fit within the soil mission, and really soil mission can support these ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did say it was an impossible task to sum all of that up, and he did it perfectly within his 3-minute countdown, so that's wonderful. Guy, there's a high bar there. Just to remind everyone, your workshop was looking at agrobiodiversity for healthy cropping systems.
Thank you. So first, I would like to thank the participants of this second session. So the topics was how can we promote healthy cropping systems, what to search and how to search. And so I have 3 main messages around 3 words, in fact, for integration, evaluation, and communication. So, first message around integration. We need to develop an holistic approach in multiple dimensions. And I have noticed 4 dimensions. First, disciplines, ecology, biology, agronomy, sociology, economy, and humanities. Second dimension, scales, plant, farm, landscape, region, union. No, all the scales are very important. Actors, we speak about local actors, but you know, it's very important to associate bottom up and top down. We need a strategy, we need where to go. So we need the Green Deal, and we need to reinforce the Green Deal. And we have also mentioned some public-private partnership, for example, for innovation, for seeds and equipment. And the 4th dimension is around values within the value chain. You know, we need to consider production, market, food consumption. So first message. And between integration and evaluation, we have this notion of trade-off. Because with this ecologization of our activity, you know, there are benefits, but there are also risks. There are winners, but there are also losers. So this question of trade-off is very important, and for this, so we need evaluation. You have mentioned this. First, we need to perhaps to evaluate the impact of non-action, of the statu quo. This is very important, perhaps to compare to the budget allocated to the ecological transition. Then we need to assess the impact of action. We need indicators. Sometimes they are positive, sometimes they are negative, etc. We need more assessment of yield, nutritional quality, profitability, resilience, etc. And we need also long-term assessment, integrating historical aspects, integrating the transition period and this question of risks, and also the climate change. And to finish, so we need to communicate. We have a lot of experiences, but we need to a permanent review, capitalization, transmission, how to do that. One table has mentioned the use of artificial intelligence, such ChatGPT, but I'm not sure it's a good idea. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, and I do appreciate this really hard job to try and take what was a rich interactive discussion and turn it into a few bullet points. And we know there'll be reports from the workshops in more depth that will be shared with the audience. But just to give a little taste of what your conversation was this morning, Frederick, can I invite you to share some of the highlights of parallel session number 3, which looked at challenges and opportunities for healthy and sustainable livestock systems?
Yes, thank you very much, and I hope I do justice to the intricate discussions we had and good discussions we had. So we've quickly discovered that livestock systems are situated in a field of tension between the conceptual idea of a system and the specificities of the science, the global challenges of emissions and the local contextuality of the systems, the need to deliver nutrition at the same time, do it sustainably. So we're in that field of tension. And the research needs identified relate to what can be done and what needs to be done, but also on how to deliver that diversity of very knowledge-intensive options to all the stakeholders, and that includes the farmers, and particularly the livestock farmers, in our case, of course, in the context of generational change, in the context of complicated socioeconomics. So that was the situation of the overall discussion, and then where do we need to go? And we need to land somewhere at some point of optimal configuration of livestock systems wide across the Union with all the complexities that come with that. So there are three main ideas that I would like to put forward, and I hope to do so in time. The first one is what do we need to do? So what is this about? It's about a patchwork of different systems. There's not one system that can be imposed. It's about the discussions linking intensive to extensive livestock management, mixed systems versus specialized systems, circularity, land use debates, ideas about breeds and genetics and diversity. Also dietary change. How does dietary change affect the configuration? That's one. Second, the impact of it all. What will be the impact on human health and food security and nutrient security? What will be the impact on animal health, animal welfare? Environmental aspects that are specifically related also to livestock systems. What will be the impact on rural communities? What will that mean for prosperity and for economics and for livelihoods? The third point is how will we navigate and value the positive and the negative externalities of livestock agriculture? It may need new business models. It may need approaches where we come up with more modeling exercises, but if you model, you have to take care of the fact that we need to optimize in the model for certain criteria. What will be those criteria, and what will be the assumptions of the model? Are the assumptions of the model sufficiently robust with whatever we know about livestock systems in their broader context, and incorporate enough reality checks, living labs, and all of that? And I have a bit of time left to get that.
Oh,
Thank
congratulations, well done. Robert, you're going to give workshop 4's highlights, and that was looking at sustainable management for multiple forests.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you very much for having me here. I actually thought I have only 2 minutes. I will be quite relaxed with these 3 minutes. Basically, what we did this morning, yesterday, that was a little bit missing throughout the conference, is discussing the role of forest, reflecting of what the role of forest is in creating more sustainable social economic models for Europe, and also where the science is actually located in all this. So what are the challenges in creating new knowledge, and especially how to communicate this knowledge? Because I believe that one of the elements that we are currently looking at as foresters is the big divide in the society between protection and use. And this is something that we need to address. And we discussed, of course, 3 main aspects: the megatrends, bioeconomy, and resilience and biodiversity. But where I would like to maybe provide 3 messages is more on the role of science, because scientists are used very much to create knowledge, but I think that the situation is changing in what way we are creating this knowledge. So for us, there were maybe, I will actually a little bit violate your rule of 3, I will go to 4 actually messages. One would be to co-create knowledge with key actors on an equal footing. Very often researchers a little bit look down to the stakeholders and infuse them the knowledge that we believe is the right one without really very much engaging on the equal level. So first one would be the co-creation aspect. The second one would be really then the take up and use of the knowledge that we are creating by the key actors in their specific context, and we assisting and supporting them in that, because very often they are lacking actually the capacities to do so, and the researchers can maybe very much help in that. The third one is also how do we manage knowledge post-project. Very often we see 4 years, great, we are all friends and happy, but at the end, everything, all the lights are switched off and the knowledge is left in the darkness. So we have to maintain sustainable use and then upgrade of this knowledge. And the fourth one, which I think is very important for us as researchers, is especially to look in how do we actually work in a multi-actor approach. We were not really properly trained in that way, and we still believe that inviting, informing, and ignoring is the right approach. So I think that this is something that we need to learn. And I think this is quite universal, not only for forestry, but I would leave it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing some of the insights. I know that there was a lot of content, and that we will have a chance to share with our audience more of that through the reports of the workshops. So thank you very much, and please go back to your seats. So those were our first 4 workshops. This afternoon, just before this closing prenie, we had a second set of workshops, and those rapporteurs have had very little time to come up with their key 3-minute reports, but they've still accepted the challenge, the mission impossible, to do that for us. So let me invite to join me up on stage Bertin Martens, the visiting fellow at Bruegel and at Tilburg Law and Economic Center. Emilia Schmidt, from the environmental scientist at the University of Cordoba and scientific coordinator of the Horizon 2020 project Moving. Welcome. I'm going to invite Anikó Juhász, the Secretary of State for the Ministry of Agriculture of Hungary. Welcome. And Kristina Bleno, Professor at the SLU Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences. So we know you haven't had much time to formulate your content, so we just hope that you can give us some of the flavor of the conversations that you had. And it's the same questions for you as with the earlier panel. What was your workshop about? What did you discuss? And then your key takeaways that the audience should learn. So I'm going to start with you. And your workshop number 5 was looking at digital and data technologies in agriculture, research and innovation for sectoral transformation.
Thank you. So what we looked at was the number of data regulations that the EU has come up with in recent years and how they affect agriculture in general and farms and farmers in particular. And so we looked at the Data Act, the Data Governance Act, and the Common European Agricultural Data Space. For the Data Act, we agreed that it is a very important piece of legislation that opens access to farm data, to data across the entire agriculture and food value chain. And so machine users will now have access to the data that their machines produce. And that makes it possible to use these data for a wide range of new services, innovative services that could come up as a result of that. And they can also port data to other parties for further innovation. At the same time, the Data Act is of course not perfect. There are a number of restrictions still that sooner or later will have to be overcome. It tries to strike a balance between the interests of the machine manufacturers and the users of the data, machine manufacturers who invested in the technology and the data collection material and so forth. And on the other hand, the farmers and the people further down the value chain who want to use it. Whether that balance is a fair balance was an object of debate in our session. Secondly, we discussed about the Data Governance Act, which creates the possibility to set up trusted intermediaries for exchanging data between different providers and users. And of course, that makes it possible for farmers to find a trusted way of sharing their data with others. And we think that will be a great step forward in promoting data sharing. At the same time, the Data Governance Act excludes commercial intermediaries who transform the data from all these regulations. And so that may create some restrictions on to what extent this Data Governance Act is useful in the agricultural sector. Thirdly, we spoke about the idea to create a common European data space where all agricultural data and food chain data could be pooled together so that researchers and policymakers can access them and promote further innovation, extract further insights from this. We think this is a great idea from an innovation perspective. At the same time, we know that the whole data governance system, the rules of engagement, the rules of who will contribute data, under which conditions, who can access the data and under which conditions, is still under discussion. And so how successful this agricultural data space is going to be will depend very much on these data governance rules.
Excellent. Thank you very much. You can plus. Emilia, you are representing the parallel session number 6 on rural opportunities.
Yes, exactly. And the discussions were very, very rich, so many aspects, but to make it short, I chose 3 keywords. And these are diversity, people, and governance. So about diversity. Well, we started talking about what are rural areas, because rural opportunities, so what are rural areas? And we quickly agreed that they are actually quite difficult to define. It's a continuum, actually, from cities to rural area, and rural areas in Europe are very, very, very diverse. So again, no one solution can fit all, and someone really well said that innovation is not possible without looking at the place and the people where it is happening. So I think this is really important. And also about innovation, we talk a lot about smart technologies, and we thought it should be especially smart rather than tech. Then about people. People are really important, and when discussing about rural opportunities, we especially discussed challenges. And we agreed that demographic challenges are probably the most pressing for our rural areas. We are losing people, the working force is leaving rural areas, and if we want opportunities to thrive and the transition also to happen for sustainable development, we need these areas to be attractive and people to remain there. Then about governance, we talked here more about solutions and what can research and innovation do, but also other instruments. And there are many, many possibilities. What was coming up everywhere at our tables was living labs and participation, and how we can integrate more the local people into decisions, the rural people, not just taking decisions from the cities and values and perspective and imposing them in rural areas, but really empower the people in these places to take part in demographic process, testing also new decision mechanisms to really identify their needs and insert to their needs in our research, in education, and in further aspects of development. And I think I'll stop there.
Excellent, thank you very much. Anniko, you're representing the parallel session number 7, which was called Bridging the Gap Between Research and Innovation and Practice Tools and Skills for Today's and Future Generations.
Yeah, it's a nice long discussion point. Actually, what we're talking about is like a twin transition of digital and green for farmers and how we can help them with that. And we had also a nice, first we have a nice panel discussing how it looks like from the policy, from the research and from the farmers' side and what they do really need. And then we had these nice workshops on different questions. So we had 4 questions, basically 4 tools to help farmers in this transition. And we're highlighting the last one, but I will start with other ones. Quite a few of them were linked to the previous sessions, so it was very good to hear that we are doing something which is important from other aspects of today's discussion. The first, there was about one on knowledge reservoirs. So basically what we're talking about, a common knowledge pool in an abstract form and also in a very technical form, how to do that and how to link it with networks who are distributing the knowledge. I think that's very important. We talked a lot about multi-actor approach and how to make multi-actor approach more part of the already existing projects like Horizon Europe and so on, and how to develop that for better use. We also talked about place-based innovation, but basically we talked about the already existing tools for knowledge exchange in CAP and in Horizon Europe, and how to combine and how to make these tools better. And also, last but not least, we talked about skills. And in this, I think the main message came from there, but it also linked the four groups, and I think that linked to all of the other discussions today, is that we need our farmers are believing and trusting farmers the best, so the other farmer. So to make this transition, we really need to involve a farmer-to-farmer discussion and make multi-stakeholder approach and all the other approaches where research is involved to place farmers among themselves in certain ways, and also to show the society champion farmers, to trust the society, us as farmers, that we can be the change, not just the problem, the moving of the future, not just the problem. So basically, I think that was the main message, that we provide a lot of solutions. We already know a lot of tools in CAP and in Horizon Europe. We work a lot on these tools, but we need to have more farmers to farmers and highlighting the exceptional, the champion farmers, to make us believable.
Thank you very much. And Christina, you're representing parallel session number 8, which is on social sciences and humanities for resilient and sustainable agriculture and forestry.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed, we had very intense discussions and many topics came up, and it's indeed a challenge to try to summarize it all in just a couple of minutes, but I will do my very best. And indeed, we do need a lot more scientific knowledge, but we also need to make use of that knowledge. Make use of it for sustainable development of the society. And here we need SSH, as we call it, social science and the humanities. And we need that to better understand what is stopping farmers, foresters, and indeed consumers from behavioral change. And here we are actually talking about individuals to make that change. So we need to reach the individuals. And here we have an opportunity to make use of the full potential of a systems approach, which I believe we often have not done. So by using a systems approach that includes also the individuals, we can provide evidence-based effective policies, policies that are evidence-based for being effective. And that includes, for instance, guidelines for effective communications. And this means that SSH, as we call it, can play a much bigger role than just ticking the box in the application of having SSH on board. SSH can actually help the society move towards sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So again, a warm thank you to our rapporteurs who at very short notice prepared the key messages, and also to our first 4 rapporteurs. Thank you, and you can sit down. Now, if they only had a short amount of time to prepare, the next person I'm going to ask to share something with us on screen, Sven, our visual harvester, has had even less time, but his challenge was, as he was listening to those report backs to come up with an image that he could show us to capture some of those key messages. And here we can see it. I'll get out of the way. There we go. So he's already captured some key messages, and of course, all of the images that he's created will be shared with you. They'll be on the website of the conference so you can see them afterwards. But there he's just summarized the key takeaways from each of our 8 parallel workshops. So thank you very much for that, Sven. It was a tough job, but you've done a really good one. So now in this next piece of the agenda, we're going to explore another new initiative that's worth taking into account. And I'm going to discuss the EU mission, A Soil Deal for Europe. And I'm going to invite 2 people to come up and join me on stage. That's Neil Watkins, who's the Deputy Director for Global Policy and Advocacy Division in the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Please come and join me. And Magda Kopczynska, who is the Deputy Director for for Outreach Research and Geographical Indications, but you know her better as our fabulous moderator from yesterday. And you've got yet another hat in this conversation because of course, you are the mission manager for the Soil Deal for Europe. Now, you both have a microphone in front of you.
And we are mic'd up.
Are you mic'd up, so we don't need it?
You can't stop us from speaking if we choose so.
So we've got a double technology here. Okay, so the EU mission, Soil Deal for Europe, we spoke a little bit about it yesterday, and yesterday our conversation looked at some of the huge challenges facing our food and our agricultural systems. And we touched on the challenges of hunger, we touched on the issues of sustainability and the need to make a big shift. So what I'd like you both to reflect on is the role of soil in all of this, why that's so important, and what brings you both here today on the same stage. So Magda, can I invite you to go first?
Yes, you can. And now I'm in the position when I have a clock ticking in front of me, so we'll see how well I do or how badly I do. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, by the way, for staying with us for a day and a half. And I was just thinking, those of you who heard me yesterday, you remember the quote that I started, that I used when I welcomed all of you to this conference, and the quote goes as follows: if agriculture goes wrong, nothing else will have a chance to go right. And I was thinking, my answer to your question is, if soil goes wrong, agriculture will have no chance to go right. Yesterday, everybody was talking, and today as well, that without soil, we cannot talk about healthy food production, we can't talk about agriculture, sustainability, forest, urban farming, whatever you name, soil matters. And of course, we had been looking into how to help to address all the problems that soil is faced with losing organic matter, with sometimes using the wrong type of fertilizers, of pollution, of soils being destroyed. And that was one of the reasons why we really jumped at the opportunity when a couple of years ago this new instrument to deal with research, but in a slightly different way, missions, was put on the table for Horizon Europe. And this is exactly what the Mission Soil is about. It's about doing research, it's about addressing what we know is a problem, but trying to do it in a different way, having a bigger group of people around the table and using this concept of living labs. Again, everybody has been talking about living labs yesterday and today, but this whole idea of getting people who know the problems, who have the solutions together, testing those solutions, and then making sure that maybe we will be better at using those findings everywhere else. And for that reason, and I promise I stop after that, and for that reason, I'm very happy not only that the Soil Mission is picking up so much traction and is so well recognized, not just in the EU, but also worldwide, but also that as part of the strategic plans under Common Agriculture Policy, member states are putting actions on the ground that will push further all the good solutions that we try to develop as part of the Soil Mission.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Thank you, Magda. absolutely spot on. So we've just heard from Magda. She made the case, nothing goes right unless agriculture goes right, and nothing in agriculture goes right until soil goes right. Now, clearly soil, the importance of soil, looking at that bigger picture of, shifting our sustainable food systems is important. Can you tell me what brings you here today?
Yeah, well, thanks very much, and thanks for inviting me, and congratulations to the Commission for organizing such an important conference on research and innovation in agriculture. And I think it goes without saying, probably, that the work done by scientists and innovators in Europe can contribute not only to European outcomes, but actually to addressing issues like hunger and climate change around the world. And the Gates Foundation really shares the European Commission's commitment to investing in innovation. And we think, as well, we focus our work in Africa and South Asia. So we have a large program on agricultural development that really focuses on helping smallholder farmers on those continents adapt to climate change and have the inputs and incomes that they need. We focus on this because if you look at Africa, actually 50% of people in Africa are employed in agriculture. By comparison, where we sit here in Belgium, it's about 1%. So if you want to tackle poverty and actually where people are working, it's such a vital space. And then meanwhile, African agriculture is so vulnerable to climate change in Africa. 95% of the continent depends on rain-fed agriculture. So you've got kind of two threats here with the continent is facing. So we think that if you want to reduce poverty, create jobs, and promote sustainable food systems, investing in smallholder farmers, helping them adapt to climate change is really key. And research and innovation is absolutely a key part of that. So that's what we focus on. But as part of that as well, soil health is just critical to our strategy, Good Agronomy. It's estimated that 65% of soils in Africa are degraded. So we believe that investing in soil health is critical to building sustainable, nutritious food systems, not only in Europe, but around the world. And we really embrace the new soil mission that the Commission has taken on.
Thank you very much. Magda, can you tell us a little bit more about the specific collaboration that we're talking about here?
It's a tricky question, because basically what we have established through different contacts and meetings and conferences where Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation people were present, our people were present, is that first of all, we share the objective. Something has to be done to help with soils. Something has to be done when it comes to Africa. And you're doing things, we are doing things under Soil Mission. So what we thought was maybe we talk a bit more and we find ways where we complement each other into actions that will be addressing problems with soils in Africa in particular. Of course, these are completely two different setups of how we act and how we contribute to solving those problems. But if we do it in a smart way, we will be able to have a greater impact. You mentioned the importance of soil in Africa and the importance of Africa. I just wanted to maybe recall for everybody is that when it comes to agriculture issues in Africa, it is a continent in the direction of which EU is looking a lot to see what we can do, how we can use the outcomes of research that we do in the EU with the money from Horizon Europe to make sure that we can maybe share the results of that research. That we can maybe help to solve problems faster. And if you're wondering how important Africa is, 1 month from now in Rome, the 5th African Union EU Agriculture Ministerial meeting will be held, and I'm quite sure that the topic of research and innovation and how we work with Africa to address food and soil problems there, that will be one of the topics on the agenda of the ministers.
Thank you. And Neil, just in 1 or 2 minutes, if you could just tell us what, in concrete terms, where you think research and innovation might then make the most difference for those small farm holders in Africa and Asia and beyond that you see is so critical. It's a huge proportion of people, the area that they work, but it's also key to our food systems. Where can research make a difference?
Yeah, well, first, just to say, I mean, we're delighted to share plans to cooperate more with the Commission, like Magda said, around some of these priorities of the EU soil mission. I think some of the specific objectives around conserving and increasing soil organic carbon stocks, enhancing soil restoration, improving soil biodiversity. These are shared objectives for the foundation and for the commission. So some of the, to your question, some of the specific areas, one is something around expanding soil knowledge platforms. So just to give an example, Soils for Africa, which was supported by Horizon 2020, has been instrumental actually in the development of open data soil information systems on the continent of Africa already. So we're thinking about, for the foundation, how do we build on that to develop new digital tools that can actually translate these data systems into tools that farmers can really use in their fields to better understand what's needed. I think another area is research and innovation on totally new approaches. So, for example, looking at the role of microbes in increasing and conserving soil organic carbon, which make up more than half of soil organic matter. So I think there's some really exciting ideas. I think the way we work is also really important, and especially in working with the continent, working with local, national, and continental actors are really important. Like Magda said, the upcoming AU-EU summit is a good place for this. There's also an African Union-hosted summit on fertilizer and soil health coming up, where I think we'll look to that summit actually to hear from Africa what are their priorities, and I think we can both align how we make sure we're really supporting what the continent is saying. And just to make this clear in terms of our commitment, we're also actually pleased to announce that the foundation will contribute up to 30 million euros for the period from 2024 to 2027 to work on improving soil health. So we really want to put our money behind where our words are on this and look forward to working together on that.
Excellent, thank you very much. So thank you to Magda and to Neil for sharing this perspective, and congratulations to both of you for this new collaboration, which, it shows a Europe looking beyond its own borders to see how it can contribute to a global response, because our food systems are global, the trade systems are global, and the climate change is global, so our solutions need to be that way. So thank you very much, Magda.
Can I just say one more thing? Has everybody signed the Soil Mission Manifesto? Thank you. Niels?
I have.
There you go.
Yeah, very good.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we're in our final element of the concluding session, and I'm delighted that we have two senior members from two different parts of the Commission who are going to come and give concluding remarks. So the first person I'd like to invite to the stage and come to the lectern to make his intervention is Marc Lemaitre, who is the Director General for AgriResearch. This is a conference looking at science, innovation and research, so he's ideally placed to tell us about it. So Marc, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me here, in particular Wolfgang, who must have reflected hard before inviting me. I am all the more delighted because I must admit to you that, like probably many of us here in the room, I am obsessed with one thing, and there is nearly only that thing that keeps me awake at night, and it is the planetary emergency that we have on our hands. Talking of the Soils Manifesto that I still need to sign myself, and I will catch up with that in a minute, there is, I think, one figure there which is a good reminder, a good way of reminding ourselves of that emergency. It says that 95% of our food depends on our soils, and it joins what Magda was saying with her Russian puppets and saying that, if we don't fix the soil, we don't fix the agriculture. If we don't fix the agriculture, we will not solve our planetary problems. The problem is, of course, not that we depend for 95% of our food on soils, but that those soils are by now degraded to a very large degree. Add to that what is becoming very sadly more and more apparent also in Europe, water scarcity, water pollution, they're expanding to the world again. Today, 80% of wastewater goes back into the environment absolutely untreated. Look at the evolution of our wildlife. We have seen a 60% drop in the wildlife population, not to mention the loss in the number of species. So all this, I think, suffices to justify the term emergency that I used. I am extremely happy that we set as an essential goal of the European Green Deal also to improve dramatically on the health of our soils by 2030. Now, I would think myself, and I just put it to you for your own reflections, of three imperatives from here to really make a difference and to make it fast. The first one is that we need continuous research efforts. I was lucky enough to join this conference and to pick up on a few of the conclusions of the different reflection tables and to hear also from the Gates and Melinda Foundation and from Magda on missions. And I think that we all agree that we need more research because we don't have today all the solutions we need. But that research, and that's my second point, should really be thinking about a system approach and about system change. And here I would expand on 2 or 3 topics. The first one is indeed that we need to embrace, as part of our research efforts, social sciences and humanities. This is not just, all to the contrary, I think, about technology. And if we focus exclusively on technology, we will not achieve our goals. The second one, and a bit linked to the first one, is that we need to involve farmers, obviously, when we talk about soils, about agriculture, agricultural practices, but more generally, our citizens. And here I would just refer to the Soil Deal for Europe mission, which Magda explained much better and much more concisely than I could do. I really think that this mission approach is a good example of how we can go beyond technology and how we can bring in all the levels of government that we need and all the civil society actors and citizens around a shared goal. And then my third and last point, probably the most difficult one, is that ultimately we need to be ready to embrace change, and that is really not easy. And here, I don't think that research will bring the solution. We will have to innovate, certainly, yes, especially in our democratic societies, how we advance the public debate. I heard ideas specific to farming, of having farmer champions and farmer-to-farmer advocacy, and so on and so forth. I think that we need indeed to reflect well on that in farming, obviously, but in society more generally. To conclude, I just want to state the obvious, that I am more motivated than ever to make sure that research contributes as much as it can to solving this planetary emergency, and therefore I feel in the right place to join up with DG Agriculture of the European Commission, with Wolfgang, who will succeed me here, to ensure that we have one day again a healthy planet with a sustainable economy and happy and healthy citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for giving the vision and the commitment at the highest level of DG Research to see how all of the science and innovation engine and thought leadership can support the shift that needs to happen. Now I'd like to invite the Director General of DG Agriculture and Rural Areas to come to the stage, Wolfgang Butcher, to also give his perspectives.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. It is a great pleasure for me to be here and to conclude this great conference. I would like first to thank Mark and his colleagues from DG RTD for being present here and for the excellent cooperation which we have had over the past years in designing and developing our research agenda. I also would like to thank all of you for your availability and for your presence in this conference, both as speakers. I think there were about 80 speakers, and we've had about 500 participants here in these rooms, and a lot of colleagues from that were listening in a virtual manner. Let me also extend my special thanks to those who have joined us from other countries and continents and organizations outside the European Union, from Australia, from Africa to Canada and United States. You have come from all corners of the world with different ideas, unique perspectives, and a variety of questions. Why do we need research and innovation? As a DG and a policy area that is important for our society because it still provides food. And these days, there is a lot of talking about green fatigue, a polarization of our societies. Some are pleading for food security, others are pleading for a more sustainable farming food system. And sometimes one gets the impression these two notions, food security and sustainability, are not compatible. Might well be, but we have no choice. We need to ensure that we square the circle, that we have food security in such a manner that it is sustainable. And the only solution to achieve this objective is you, is the researchers, is science. Remember when we have developed the farm to fork strategy, there was a lot of talking about modeling and as to whether the objectives of the farm to fork strategy will lead to a decrease of agriculture production in Europe. Might well be, but we have said these models do not take into account what research and innovation can deliver in the future, so that we have the same yields, the same harvests, with much less impact in terms of damages to climate, environment, and biodiversity. And this is our challenge. Now, for whom do we make this research and innovation? It's certainly for farmers. And I think all along this conference, we have put the emphasis on how can we ensure that research and innovation and results are brought to the farmers. And yesterday, Gilles Sandin from Canada, he said it very rightly. We have done our job only if research and innovation and the results of research and innovation are in the hands of the farmers. Mais ne nous trompons pas. I think this takes time. Transformation and changes, skills at the level of farmers, the deployment of new practices takes time. And we have no time. But it's a fact of life. We have an excellent pilot project here. We have an excellent pilot project there. But we have 9 million farmers in Europe. And all of these farmers should be able to use the results of research and innovation. So I think we have a huge challenge ahead of us to provide research and innovation to our farmers to square the circles in terms of food security and sustainability. But, and that was a discussion yesterday, does research and innovation also play a role for policy making? For us, for Mark in research and innovation, for our political masters. And I still think it does. Research and innovation is decisive for the conception of policies, but also for the implementation and evaluation of policies. How difficult is it as an agricultural commissioner or a director general in agriculture to permanently hear that despite all our efforts in making agriculture greener, that there are everywhere downward trends in terms of biodiversity, in terms of environment, in terms of climate. So I think we need to really make common and joint efforts not to greenwash what we do, but also to have proper and fair methods to measure what our policies can do and what they achieve. We have another discussion, which is sometimes that policy making or politicians expect from research and innovation clear replies, black or white. Look at the discussions which we have today on the use of pesticides, on natural restoration law, on many other things. 400 scientists submit a plaidoyer against, 400 others are for. So I do not envy you in this job because you do all the best. And depending on the angle we are looking at things and the priorities which you set, research results might be different. But I think one thing we should really take serious. I think throughout this conference, a lot of you have referred to the need of being holistic and systems approach. And I only can subscribe to this. Everybody pretends today that he is holistic and systemic. But are we really? Just a moment ago, Professor Leroy presented livestock. Is it a holistic approach if you just judge livestock and agriculture based on methane emissions and correlation with red meat and cancer? Or are there more positive externalities in terms of holding livestock? So I think the test which we all need to deliver is that we really look at things in a holistic manner, and we recognize that in a systemic approach, solutions are not so easy. There are so many trade-offs which we have to make. And I think that is a criteria that we should really address in research and innovation. Now let me turn to my last point, which is, as Mark has already referred to, we will sign in a moment the Soil Mission Manifesto, declaring our commitment to healthy soils and sustainable land management. I invite you all to seize the moment to sign your names beside ours and to become leaders in our mission, a soil deal for Europe. By signing the manifesto and joining the mission, you will take your place in a community dedicated to protecting and restoring the health of our soils. With this, I would like to conclude, but before I do so, let me say a big thank you again to the entire team on our side, to Magda, to Kerstin, to Antonella, to many other colleagues who have been organizing this conference, who have put a lot of work in it. Certainly they have also had some sleepless nights like Mark, but just being concerned as to whether the conference works. And thank you very much for you again being here, being sympathetic, I hope, to agriculture, but certainly sympathetic and competent in your areas of research and innovation. Thank you very much and have a safe journey back.
We're now going to have the signing ceremony for the manifesto for the soil, which is going to be brought up by Kirsten Rosenau, who is the head of unit in DG Agri for Science and Innovation. Both Mark and Wolfgang are going to sign the manifestos, and this is a participatory event. We invite you to also do the same thing, because there's nobody here who doesn't in some way touch the soil, whether you've got a pot plant at home, you've got a balcony or a garden or even a field near you. Soil matters to all of you. So we're going to invite you to sign online and send us your selfie, your screenshot, your photo of you signing the manifesto, and we'll show you the social media links afterwards, and we'll put that as part of a big collage because we want to encourage momentum for change. So let me invite Mark and Wolfgang to show us their signed manifestos, and we'll have a photograph moment. Thank you. So, as I said, this is a process of momentum, and we would like to match this wonderful photo of the two Director Generals with their signed soil manifestos with yours, your pictures, your signatures. Share it with friends, send us the selfies and pictures, and that's a sign that everyone takes soil seriously, that we need to care for it, it's degraded, but we can do something about it. So Mark and Wolfgang, thank you very much. Thank you. Please go ahead. After a day and a half of incredibly intensive and really exciting conversations, all good things must come to an end, and we are racing towards the last few minutes of our time together. I hope you found it as stimulating and interesting as I have. At the beginning, we wanted to see how we could bring the two different worlds of scientists and researchers together with the farming, agriculture, and food communities. So we're now going to ask you a question. So I'm going to launch a Slido poll, because we're going to ask you, how was the conference for you? I know in some of the planning meetings that I sat in, what we hoped you'd get out of it. We hoped that you would have a chance to share your knowledge. We hoped that you would have a chance to be inspired, to make new contacts, to find out more that was going forward, also to share your concerns, perhaps your hesitations, your skepticism, your optimism. So here's our question. How was it for you? And we're going to be creating a Slido poll. I'm going to have that open in the next sort of 5 or 10 minutes, so it'll give you a time to reflect on it. How was this conference for you? And a reminder, the last time this conference was held was in 2018. That feels like a world away, doesn't it? It was pre-pandemic. So this is the first time in 5 years we've been able to bring the stakeholders together to have the kinds of conversations that can really only happen, the magic that happens when we get people in a physical or virtual room. So we wanted to find out, how was this conference for you? And I'm going to let the word cloud build up, because the next thing I'm going to do is announce a very special treat for you. We have a very special message. This is from the Save Soil movement and someone called Sadhguru, who is well known throughout the world. He is absolutely passionate about soil, and he has launched a global movement to address the soil crisis by bringing together people from around the world to stand up for soil health. We heard some of the figures earlier, just how much of our global soil is degraded, and we need to do something about it. And Sadhguru has led a grassroots movement in India and beyond. Now, he unfortunately could not join us in person. He sent a recording, but several members of his team did come to this conference, so we thank you for making that journey. I know you were here to participate, to engage, to reach out and inspire. So we're first going to watch the message from Sadhguru, and then I'm going to show you the word cloud that you've been creating on how the conference was for you. But first, let's watch the message from Sadhguru.
Namaskaram and my best wishes to every one of you who are at the European Union AgriResearch conference. It is wonderful to see that so many policymakers, scientists, farmers and experts have come together to ensure the sustainability of agriculture and health of soil. It's very important that European Union takes the lead in this, because the whole world looks up to you when it comes to sustainability. So, you have the responsibility not just for Europe, but for the entire planet. I'm glad you're doing this right now. The European Union Soil Strategy for 2030 has holistic soil health as its mandate. The recent Common Agriculture Policy of 21 to 27 for the entire European Union region has 40% of its budget allocated to climate-relevant interventions, including improving soil health. The European Green Deal, refreshingly, unlike most of the world, sees healthy soil as a solution to climate change issues. These are all great steps forward. I am not a scientist in any way, but my understanding of European Union's soil revitalization policies right now is they are very comprehensive but too complex for the average farmer to implement. I want you to understand my view of the soil is the worm's view. I've crawled on this planet for 6.5 decades and I know what the worm knows. I'm not a scientist or an environmentalist, but we must understand that it is not the scientists and academics who are going to execute the soil revitalization. It is the farmers. If you give them one simple point which would make a difference, they can do it, especially because farm economy is so fragile all over the world. Any kind of drastic changes will be resisted and will be unimplementable. So when it comes to soil revitalization, the most important thing is increasing the soil organic matter in the soil. If you increase the organic matter in the soil, the need for fertilizer or any other input will naturally come down, the organic activity will multiply manifold. This is why, as a part of Save Soil movement, we proposed a simple thumb rule for farmers, that their land should have a minimum of 3 to 6% organic matter based on regional conditions. How they do it is up to them. It is not a total solution, but it will be a significant step towards soil revitalization to fix various other ecological issues as well. Above all, enhance organic activity in the soil, which is very, very vital for all life on this planet, as microbial life is the foundational life for every other life, including our lives. To achieve this percentage of organic matter in soil, we presented a three-pronged strategy to UNCCD COP15. First is the governments of the world need to incentivize the farmers to raise organic matter in their soils. Second, we must simplify the carbon credit market so that it is accessible to farmers. Third, you need a market recognition which evaluates the produce as per the organic matter of the soil which it comes from. If these three actions are implemented, we can easily achieve 3 to 6% organic matter in soil subject to regional conditions, greatly enhance microbial activity and sequester water in a significant way, and above all, the soil will not radiate heat. It is truly inspiring to see that there is now a European Union mission's soil manifesto for Europe. This will be supportive in helping both citizens and stakeholders raise their voices in support of healthy soil. I would encourage everyone in Europe to sign the manifesto, to be active participants in ensuring Europe's soil is rich for generations to come. My best wishes to everyone at this conference. The speed at which we revitalize soil now will decide the future of humanity in years to come. Save soil. Let's make it happen.
So, he posted his selfie of him signing the manifesto, and that's what we would like you to do. So please go online, download it, and either send us a screenshot, a selfie, a picture, so we can see it. Now I'd like to show you the word, and here's the social media, the connections you can use to send in your image. I'd now like to show you the Slido word cloud that you were creating, because I asked a very simple question. How was the conference for you? And we asked you, and let's see now. Isn't that fabulous? Right at the heart of it, the strongest response was you found it inspiring, interesting, interactive, insightful. Soil is key, absolutely. Tiring, stimulating, reviving, loads of things there for us to think about. So thank you very much for sharing your honest perspectives. This is exactly what we wanted to know. This is the beginning of a conversation, not the end. It's been a wonderful 2 days, but it is not finished, because those of you who are going on a site visit tomorrow, just to give you the practical information, you need to be here tomorrow morning, because they all start here at 7:30, so you need an early breakfast. But you'll have opportunities to go out and see different sites across the city. So don't forget, that's being set up for you. And as we can see, you've got routes and different operational groups, and there's an opportunity to see some things in action. So I hope you found this a wonderful conference. It had a mixture of the very practical like this, the sort of brainstorming, we had political panels. It was all designed to create that momentum for change. So I want to say on behalf of everyone here, the organizers, the tech team, and everyone who made this conference a success, including you, thank you, see you again soon, and a safe journey home.